Welcome to the PooCast podcast with your hosts,
What's
Browne
and Pickering. G'day, I'm Brian Pickering.
I'm Kaye Browne.
And I'm Jocelyn Watts.
Thank you for joining us again on the PooCast podcast. Now, this week we've got some very interesting stories.
That's saying something.
The first one is what our bowel habits say about us. Have you ever, gone to the loo and had a look and go, ugh?
Yes.
I think we all have at some stage.
I try not to look.
So we'll try and find out exactly what's going on down there. Next one I've got is 10 healthy but overlooked foods that we should all be eating a lot more of.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know, like McDonald's.
I don't think that's going to be included in the 10 foods. Is it food?
That might be one for misinformation.
Oh, okay. What's she got?
She's got bee pollen makes your boobs grow.
Oh,
That's interesting.
clearly I've been eating a lot of bee pollen lately.
Well, I've looked at the cartoon of misinformation. I don't know that she's been eating bee pollen.
And should we be eating 3 meals a day?
Well, I eat 3 meals. Well, no, I don't actually eat 3 meals a day. I used to eat like 4 or 5. But
Depends on your health status and condition and what the experts
Absolutely.
suggest.
Coming up,
and now the latest PooCast podcast news update with Kaye Browne.
Well, when I was a little girl, I was told it's rude to burp in public. What about you, Jossie?
Definitely. I was always told never to burp in public. It was rude. Yes.
Oh, well, definitely. And if I did burp, to say sorry or excuse me. However, an American woman who produced a burp measuring 107.3 decibels did not apologise. In fact, she was thrilled as she had just broken the Guinness World Record for the loudest burp. The previous record was set way back in 2009 by an Italian woman at 107 decibels. But Kimberly Winter, funny name, took the title with those extra 0.3 decibels. Apparently the secret to her success was a hearty breakfast followed by coffee and a beer.
Really?
Yeah?
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you need to have a beer to burp?
No. I've got a party trick where I can do it without that.
Really?
Yeah. I can show you as long as my mother doesn't get to hear this.
Oh, we won't tell her, okay? Oh, that's a ripper. We'll have to check the decibels on that
I
one.
think so.
Okay, moving along, still on the theme of gas. Sometimes it's not the sound, but rather the smell of one's wind that isn't particularly attractive. However, a Frenchman, Christian Poincheval, has come up with an all-natural herbal tablet, which allegedly covers up any pong with the lovely aroma of roses and violets. Of course, if flowers aren't your thing, apparently this helpful inventor has an alternative called the Father Christmas pill. It gives one's wind a hint of chocolate. I guess that would also work for birthdays or Father's Day, not just Christmas Day. What do you reckon?
One would think so.
Oh, sweet. Well, if you found that last story hard to believe, it seems some people aren't offended by strong food smells. In fact, they love them, prompting the makers of Stilton cheese to reportedly create perfume called Eau de Stilton, which allows lovers of the pungent blue vein cheese aroma to enjoy their passion and possibly attract like-minded friends. And lastly, do you like strawberries?
I love strawberries.
Yeah.
I love strawberries.
Yeah, good, because for years we've been told strawberries are a superfood, good for our gut, our nervous system and our hearts. But now there's new research from San Diego State University says that eating strawberries every day can help improve cognitive function, in other words, stave off dementia, lower blood pressure, and increase a person's antioxidant capacity. How many a day do you think you'd have to eat? Any guesses?
Half a dozen?
Possibly a little bit more. That's about 1.5 cups of strawberries, between 1.5 to 2.
Okay.
That's about 8 or 9, depending how big they are.
Yeah.
And the good news is currently they're a lot cheaper. So I don't know about you, but I think we'll be stepping out to buy some strawberries.
I think so.
They go well in smoothies for breakfast too.
Excellent. They go well with cream and
Tia Maria.
and champagne and things. I don't know that that's what the research is currently about. But hey, it's worth inquiring.
Yeah.
And that's this week's news wrap-up on the PooCast podcast.
You're listening to the PooCast podcast with your hosts, Browne and Pickering.
All Alrighty, well, our first story is what our bowel habits say about us. Now, a lot of people think, oh, God, no, I just want to go to the toilet, shut the lid and get out of there. Well, don't forget to flush. But ultimately, we've got to talk about this stuff. What is poop? Or why do we have it? And how does it affect what we do? Or rather, how does it show what's happened to us in our bodies and all the rest of it? So apparently it consists of water, protein, ash, polysaccharides, undigested fats, bacterial biomass, and all that sort of stuff, undigested food as well, believe it or not. But the thing is that what you've got to consider is the colour and consistency of it. So we'll go through a few quick ones here, and we'll put a link to this story later on. But colour's one of the things, if it's brown and typically brown and looking good and it's all firm, that's fantastic. I love how we're just talking about this like we're talking about a hamburger.
Well, that'll have a different effect, I think.
Of course, if it's really black, it can be an indication of some kind of digestive issue or whatever. So, you have to think about that.
Could be something like blood in the intestine, apparently. It's the same with our animals. If you see dark poop that our animals produce, it's not a good sign.
Look, red stools, as they call them, could indicate a digestive bleeding of some sort. So really you need to go and see the doctor as soon as you can with that. Similar things for white and grey. We've got green, yellow, and one here that I'm looking at, rabbit-like poop, whatever that is. Pellets, I think they call it.
Well, I think so. If you've ever had a pet rabbit, you know that their pellets come out looking like little pellets. So if our human poop comes out in pellets, unlike the rabbits, we're not eating enough fibre. See, rabbits actually do best on rabbit food, which is really dry hay, and that keeps them healthy and happy. A bit like horses, they need lots of dry matter. And if we don't have enough fibre, then we have pellets.
Exactly. Yeah. Look, it goes on. There's quite a lot. There's, large and solid or runny and all this. So, I think we've all been there and done that at some stage. But how much should you do? What's normal? Once a day, twice a day, once every other day. It just varies from person to person. Apparently, Hippocrates, the father of Western medicine, I'm quoting here, believed that ideal bowel movements should occur 2 to 3 times a day, which was a common occurrence in plant-based diets. But apparently now, as we're eating a lot more meat and a lot more processed foods, it's maybe not the same. Maybe every other day or whatever. So there you go. Now we all know everything about happy, healthy poods.
Well,
anyway.
We know what happens with when it goes in the bowl. Our bowel habits and the bowls go together. But what about toilet paper? Were you going to tell us a little bit about the impact of different things over the years and how we clear up?
Well, did you know that years gone by, when there wasn't any toilet paper, did you ever think about how they might have cleaned down there? One of the ones that got me was corn cobs.
What? Really?
Corn cobs.
Who ever thought to use a corn cob?
I don't know, but if I was going to use a corn cob, I'd want to be first. And likewise for, in fact, I believe in London, the Thames was essentially a sewer. Mm-hmm. And what happened was they would use a rag or a brush on the end of a stick and they'd share this around. They'd wash it in the water and the next one over, or wash it in the water and away they'd go. Like, how bizarre is that?
Oh, no. And what about sailors on boats? I mean, those long trips when they came out from Mother England to circumnavigate the world, I wonder what they used.
Yeah.
I happen to know that someone in a yachting magazine mentioned something about the end of rope, which I wouldn't think would be terribly much fun either.
Also in Japan, there's the bidets.
Oh, I love the bidets. I've been to Japan and actually, I didn't think I would like them, but once I tried them out, okay.
Can we get a demonstration?
No.
Okay.
They use them in parts of Europe as well. That was where I got to try them. And I thought, hey, this is quite nice. But I think you'd have to make sure the water flow was not too strong. Otherwise, it could be a bit of a surprise.
Yeah, there's all sorts of, I guess, inverted commas, horrible things. There's these ceramic shards and goose's neck.
First, you've got to catch the goose.
That's right, exactly.
I thought the feathers would be okay, but I don't know about the neck.
And in Australia, good old Aussie way, apparently, are strips of newspaper. Never mind the ink. I would never have thought of that.
Yeah, I remember using them when I was quite young.
And in New Zealand, they had squares of newspaper, and they were pierced with a nail and then on a bit of string and hung up in the outhouse in the dunny.
That's right.
Yeah.
Just glad I didn't have to wash any undies after using newspaper ink.
Alrighty, enough of bowel habits. So there you go. We've all kind of learned a lot about that one, haven't we?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, right now, our second story here on the PooCast podcast, 10 healthy but overlooked foods we should all be eating more of. Jocelyn, you've got a bit of a handle on this.
Yeah, mushrooms was the first one that comes to mind.
Well, we know they taste great, and I love that they actually bring a bit of umami flavour to things, as long as they're cooked properly. A lot of people think they have to boil mushrooms. Yep, that gets too much water in them, but you would saute them, wouldn't you?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Mushrooms are probably one of my favourite. I have them a lot of different ways in casserole, saute them. I have just a whole mushroom for breakfast with some things on it.
Beans and
chili, other things as well. Yeah,
it's good.
So
They've got a lot going for them. They're low calorie as well.
Yeah, definitely. Red onions. You often hear about the white onions or even spring onions, but the red onions are particularly good in salad and eaten raw.
Yep.
Sardines. That's another tin fish that's other than the salmons and the tuna. You've got sardines as well, and they're also rich in omega-3.
Aha, well, no, you like omega-3s for the simple purpose. And what's that, Jocelyn?
Whereas as what I was brought up hearing was that they increase your boob size. So if there's a lot of omega-3 and things. So
I've had a lot of omega-3s growing up.
I did.
Now, listen, what do you do with the oil from the tin fish?
Trick question.
Trick question.
Yeah, I don't have the oil. I don't buy the tin fish with the oils in it. So, yeah, there's also sweet potatoes. It's another unheard of one.
I love sweet potatoes. Yeah.
I have a little story about that, actually. When my first child was born, and then we're going back to the 1980s here, and they had the nursing mothers, and you'd once a week you'd take your child around to the Senate, and the nurse was asking me what I was feeding my child on when she was starting to eat solids, and I said sweet potatoes. She said, "Oh no," she said, "that's too sweet. You shouldn't be introducing sweet things to them so early." So I think this poor lady hadn't actually heard much about sweet potatoes, because that is actually contrary to what is fact.
Yes, indeed, because your mother we'll just remind our listeners, Jossie's mum is a home economics expert and taught it, and very, very aware of what's good and what's bad.
And it was through her that she introduced me to the sweet potatoes.
Fantastic.
And there's a lot of other benefits to sweet potatoes that, because it says sweet, it doesn't necessarily mean they're full of sugar. They're not.
I have to ask you, because a lot of new mums will be listening and new dads, and there's nothing worse than some of those things that end up in the nappies or diapers, as the Americans call them, the effect of sweet potatoes in babies when they're first transitioning to solids. Not unpleasant when having to change babies?
Well, we are going back a few years now, but not that I can recall, no. Not anything unusual.
And here's one, this next one you've got listed as an acquired taste, as you said.
Yes, kale. I get the benefits for it. I can't tell you what they are offhand. But yeah, kale, it's one of these superfoods apparently, but to eat it, it's not one of my favourites again.
Not one of my favourites either. I tried that thing where they say take the stem out because that's hard and you don't eat that, and then put olive oil on and put it in the oven and make kale chips. But that sort of, I'm not sure that was particularly exciting either. So jury's out, as you say, on kale. But we're willing to be persuaded. If someone listening has a great recipe for kale, which we will love, please tell us, send us an email, give us a call, and we will include it in the next episode.
Hi, I'm misinformation. Did you know that bee pollen make your boobs grow larger? It's true. It must be. I saw it on the internet.
So, true or false? Here's another one. I mean, she's doing well. As it turns out, she might be kind of on the edge of being right this time.
But what actually is bee pollen?
Well, there's another one we can look up, isn't it?
I mean, I know bees collect pollen from flowers, but what actually is?
Well, apparently it's rich in phytoestrogens, which in sources of the substance include soybeans, garlic, celery, carrots, potatoes, rice, wheat, everything by the looks for potatoes, fruits, and even coffee. Keep drinking coffee and your boobs will grow. I don't think so.
I gave up drinking coffee. Maybe I should start again.
Look, so does it work? Basically, no. From this article that we checked out, there's no scientific evidence to suggest that bee pollen can increase the size of the biological airbags that it's called. I've never called biological airbags, but there you go.
Oh, we can believe Dr. Raj, though.
Yeah.
He does say that birth control medication, hormone therapy, some of those things can work. And I have to say, in hindsight, I'm pretty sure when I first went on the pill, yes, I went up bra size.
Okay.
So they were tiny before.
Well, I don't know what I've been eating, but hey.
Well, you're not on the pill, so we can rule that one out.
Okay, 3 meals a day. Should we actually be eating 3 meals a day? I think we've been all grown up with breakfast, lunch and dinner, haven't we? Is that the right thing to do?
Yeah, I think it's a very individual thing. Mm-hmm. Personally, I like my 3 meals a day, and if I go without food for too long, I've tried fasting and it doesn't work for me. I get a little bit crotchety.
No, I can't imagine you ever getting crotchety. So the hangry thing in the ads we see is a thing for some people. Is there any particular reason? Is it genetic? Was your mum like that?
Well, not that I recall, because it was a standard to have the 3 meals a day as we were growing up anyway. But however, my daughter, with her daughter, as my granddaughter, if she doesn't eat, she will get a bit cranky. And I can see that with her tendencies are very similar to mine, actually. So, yeah, if I don't eat it and if I fast it.
There are lots of diets out there, of course, and we're not promoting any particular diet, but there are some that actually say, look, fasting for this period of time, only have 1 meal a day, or do it for 4 days and then have 2 days off and that kind of thing. So always see your accredited practicing dietitian to get any advice. Don't take any advice from us. We're just looking at stories and alerting people to what's around, and then we put links on our website, PooCast.com.au, to give you a little bit more information if you're interested.
Yeah. It's unfortunate they use the term fasting because that sounds painful. And having tried every known diet to mankind, which included fasting, starving myself, definitely does not work. However, resting apparently is the latest thing they're saying. And I think even Dr. Michael Mosley, the Fast 500 sort of guru, talking about eating low carb and eating within a window during the day, rather than having your first meal really early and your last meal really late and then snacking after that, to have it within an 8-hour window. And some people say, from midday to 8 p.m, well, it's a bit late. I personally like to have brunch around 11. Never really been big on breakfast.
Same.
I'm not awake.
Yeah.
No, I like my breakfast.
Oh, well, we won't be saying it out, plus. It is a personal choice as well, and I think it depends on the work that you do. Perhaps, if you've got to start early in the morning and get to work and you're not allowed to have snacks or anything, you probably do need some breakfast to last through the morning till lunchtime. So, it's a personal choice as well as a dietary choice.
And at least the scientists and researchers are putting more effort into finding out what is going to keep us as healthy as possible for as long as possible and keep our marbles. Pretty keen on that myself.
I'd like to keep my marbles. Okay. Coming up next time on the PooCast podcast, carbs, are they good for us or bad for us?
Now that's a complicated one, isn't it?
Again, I think it's an individual thing. It depends how much energy you use. Like elite sports people, yes, they would be needing a lot of carbs because they need that for energy. But if you're not using much in the way of carbs, you don't need as many carbs. And I think if you have too many in that situation, it can be harmful.
It's also whether it's a complex carbohydrate or a simple carbohydrate, because everything has carbs in it. You can't go on a no-carb diet. We really would be unwell.
And you do need to carbs, or at least some.
There's carbs in red wine, isn't there?
No, I don't think so.
Oh,
just resveratrol.
It's good. Well, it's like we'll talk about carbs, good or bad for us next time.
And next time as well, worms.
Oh, worms.
Worms. Specifically kind of little, almost invisible to the eye worms that are being used by some integrative practitioners to help people with autoimmune diseases, kids who are on the spectrum. It's going to be interesting. They say it really makes a difference when nothing else has.
So thank you for joining us today. We really enjoy your company. If you've got any comments, by all means, comment on our Facebook page, which is PooCast Podcast on Facebook, and maybe share some of our stories with friends.
Please do.
Meantime, I'm going to say see you later. I'm Brian Pickering.
I'm Kaye Browne.
And I'm Jocelyn Watts. Bye.
See you next time.
Thanks for joining us today on the PooCast podcast. If you like what we do, please share. And remember, our stories are for general information only. Make sure you always seek advice from your registered health professional. And thanks again for listening.